Brock Lesnar returned to WWE last Sunday at SummerSlam in the big surprise of the weekend, more so than even the Seth Rollins cash-in the night before, because I figured he would be cashing in. A lot of people did. But I didn't hear anyone mentioning Lesnar, even as a possibility for the show. The Rock, yes, but not Brock. Brock had not been seen since his loss to Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam 2 years ago. And there were plans for him to be in the Royal Rumble last year. I remember there was talk about him being dumped by Dominic Mysterio, of all people, which would lead to a match, a squash match. I mean, what else would it be? At Elimination Chamber, and then from there he would wrestle Gunther at WrestleMania. And then the week of the Rumble is when the Janel Grant sex trafficking lawsuit was filed, and it was like a bomb went off. And Vince McMahon, he might still be running the show had Slim Jim not threatened to pull their sponsorship. They had just announced a new sponsorship with Slim Jim, very lucrative one, and then this happened. And if you remember, they put a statement out that they were putting a pause on their partnership. And that's when Ari Emanuel got on the phone with Vince McMahon and convinced him that it's best to step aside because Slim Jim would probably just be the first in a very long line of sponsors to fall if he didn't. And so Vince left. So thank you, Slim Jim. I will never make fun of your stupid tables ever again. Actually, I probably will, but thanks anyway. And so they pulled Brock as well. They replaced him with Braun Breaker in that Rumble, and Dominic eliminated him instead. And Gunther went on to lose his Intercontinental title to Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. So they pulled Lesnar from the video game. Like, he was gone. It looked like he was just on ice indefinitely, at least until the lawsuit was resolved in some way. There's a reason that he was gone for 2 years, okay? That wasn't by accident. And then there he is at MetLife Stadium last weekend. And when I heard the music and I saw him come out, there he is. There's Cowboy Brock. I felt nothing seeing him out there. Like, no excitement. It was just more like, this is a man that is named 44 times in a sex trafficking lawsuit. Not John Cena, not Roman Reigns, not Seth Rollins. Brock Lesnar is. Though he is not accused of committing a crime, nor is he named as a defendant in the lawsuit. Vince McMahon is. WWE is. John Laurinaitis was, before he cut that deal that he be dropped as a defendant in exchange for providing evidence against McMahon and WWE. Brock Lesnar is not, and that is an important distinction to make. But his name is all over this thing, and it's pretty disgusting stuff. And so to clear up any confusion as to what he is alleged to have done or not have done, and why his name is listed 44 times in this suit, let's just run through it here, once and for all. Janel Grant alleges that Vince McMahon recruited Brock for a sexual encounter with her to be her next playmate, as he put it, or as she puts it in the lawsuit. Supposedly that's how Vince put it. At a time when Vince McMahon allegedly told her that he was trying to sign Brock to a new contract. So if she, quote, helped him out, it would be really helpful to him. So he had her create sexual content for Brock that Vince could then send to Brock, which she did. She produced the content, she sent it over, and Brock likes what he sees, right? Or at least that's what Vince told her. Brock likes what he sees. I don't know that she ever actually met with Brock, although there's a passage in the suit that makes mention of Vince flying him into Connecticut and Brock stopping by her building for a visit, but that he didn't return because he was too intoxicated and he was taken back to the plane. So that almost makes it sound like they did initially meet, but they just didn't have sex. But again, I'm a little questionable on that. But she alleges that Vince gave Brock her cell phone number, and so there would have been text messages between Lesnar and Grant. I don't recall seeing any of those screenshots in the lawsuit, only the phone messages between her and Vince. Those are in there. But that's where she claims that Brock requested that she send him a video of her urinating. And then later she claims Brock wanted to have sex with her, and they allegedly sent her the address of the hotel that he was staying at in Connecticut because WWE had a show at the Mohegan Sun Arena. That's the meeting that ended up not happening because there was a snowstorm. It changed his travel plans. And then she also claimed that she had COVID anyway, just as an excuse to back out. And there's more in the suit. I'm not going to get into every single detail. I think we could leave it there. But for all the people asking, like, what did Brock do? What did Brock do? I genuinely don't know what he did. That's what she alleges in the lawsuit. The point is, if this indeed happened, she was being trafficked to other people for sex and sex-related acts by her boss. It's an issue of power and exploitation. That's the real crux of the lawsuit. Exploitation that Brock Lesnar may have potentially benefited from. Had Vince McMahon paid her the money that he was supposed to as part of the non-disclosure agreement they signed, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. We never would have known about any of this. That's true. I've seen people mention that. That's true. Because I see people using that as an excuse to bash the woman and call her all kinds of names. But if this happened in the way that she describes, it's still wrong. And it's still disgusting all the same. And Vince McMahon should never be allowed back into that company ever again. He should never be in a position of power ever again. Though I fully believe that if they were to hit No Chance in Hell one day, and he walked out on TV, you would have thousands of idiots in the crowd bowing to the man. You know it's true. Brock, at worst, was a willing party to all of this, and that he's named 44 times in the complaint, you would think, since nothing has changed on the lawsuit front, it would give them pause to use him again until the case is resolved, depending on what the outcome is. It's still in this state of suspended animation until a judge decides whether it should go to private arbitration, which is what Vince and WWE want, in which case it never goes to discovery, and whatever happens, happens behind closed doors. And that's it. Or it goes to trial, as she wants, which means discovery, which means things could get even uglier for Vince and for WWE, and potentially for Brock Lesnar too, if there is more that we don't know about, and if she has the receipts to prove it. For whatever reason, WWE decided enough time had gone by that it was safe to bring Brock back. And on the SummerSlam post-show, Paul Levesque said this about Brock's return. This is John Cena's wish list. It's him writing the last chapter of his book. And I think people saw a conversation with us where he said that we'd have to screw it up pretty badly to ruin his career. They used that clip on Unreal. But he said, it's not about that for me. It's about John being able to go out the way that he wants, to write his chapter. I know what that's like as a performer. I know what that's like for everybody to feel that. And I think for John to be able to do what he wants to do, one of the very first things I said to him is, who do you want and how? And we're working through that. So you hear that, and it sounds like he's putting it on John Cena. That this is something John Cena requested for his retirement tour. Which, even if he did, so fucking what? Like, who gives a shit? Doesn't mean you have to say yes. I don't care who he is. But he's putting it back on John Cena. Meanwhile, John Cena was asked about Brock's return, and his response was simply, they deal him, I play him. Which implies what he's always said for years, which is that he does what his boss tells him to do. He's always said he doesn't lobby for matches. He doesn't lobby for opponents. Maybe all of a sudden it's different because he's in the twilight of his career, but he has been consistent in that for years. He comes to work, they pitch an idea to him, and he says yay or nay. They laid it all out on Unreal when they talked about the heel turn. They came to him and said, hey, what do you think about turning heel? He's like, I like it. Okay, let's do it. Like, I don't get the sense that he's actively, showing up at these shows with a list of ideas. Oh, we want to do this, and I want to wrestle this guy, and I want to do that. Like, he shows up, and he does what they tell him to do. And all of a sudden, we're supposed to believe that he has this wish list of opponents? I mean, they've had him outside of Cody playing the hits with people like Randy Orton and CM Punk. It's not surprising they would want to run him and Brock back one more time. I mean, the two of them have a lot of history together, going all the way back to the OVW days. They've had 3 classic matches together. One at Extreme Rules in 2012, when Brock came back, the SummerSlam squash in 2014, and the triple threat match with Seth Rollins at the Royal Rumble in 2015. That was 10 years ago. I don't know what a Brock Lesnar-John Cena match looks like in 2025, but I can't say it's something I was clamoring for. If Cena was, then good for him. He got his wish. When Brock walked out at SummerSlam, the place went nuts for him, right? I mean, the reality is, most fans aren't going to care about any of this. A lot of them probably don't even know from this lawsuit. You think that, and I mean, like, even know it exists, but even the ones who know kind of the basics of it, like, how many people do you think actually sat there and read through 69 pages of that initial complaint PDF? I mean, really. They just want to watch the show for the big moments and be entertained. Brock coming out was a moment. They talked about the 75 million social media views that it generated. That's what they care about. Dave Meltzer says Lesnar was under contract with them this entire time and was paid his guarantee for the past 2 years. Even though he never made a single appearance, he was still one of the highest paid wrestlers in the entire company. To sit home. He was never suspended. He was never fired. And about a month ago, WWE's legal department, the same legal department, funny enough, that once employed Janel Grant, the legal department cleared him for a return. Now, cleared him has caused some confusion. Cleared him doesn't mean he was cleared of any wrongdoing. This is not a legal case. So, like in the legal aspect of things, it just means that they gave the okay for him to come back. A spokesperson for Janel Grant issued a statement regarding Lesnar's return, saying, "For far too long, abuse was allowed to thrive under WWE's leadership. Instead of righting this wrong, WWE has done nothing to ensure those responsible are held accountable. This attempt to sweep misconduct under the rug will backfire. We look forward to the full set of facts, including those about Mr. Lesnar, coming out in a court of law where they belong. But in the meantime, we refer you back to Janel Grant's updated complaint, which outlines in detail the abuse that she endured by McMahon and others while employed at WWE." Either WWE is confident that this case is not going to trial, or they simply don't care, and they are willing to take the risk that nothing else is going to come out as it relates to Brock Lesnar. Maybe they spoke with Brock. Maybe he shared his own text messages with their lawyers. We don't know. You would assume their legal team knows more than we do, but again, it could just be as simple as, we're paying this man a lot of money, and we want to get a return on our investment. He's not accused of any crime, so we're going to bring him back. If her legal team is to be believed, there may be more that comes out that paints him in a bad light. But that only happens if the case goes to discovery. Right now, it's 50-50 whether or not that happens. WWE clearly believes they have nothing to worry about. This could also be settled before it ever goes to trial, with her getting a big fat payday out of it. Like, if the judge rules in favor of a trial, there's definitely a settlement offer coming. And if it's high enough, I think she takes the money and runs. And then this all goes away. I just don't see what's in it for her to do it any other way. Again, this is a civil case. No one's going to jail. This is a civil case. It's not a criminal case. Vince McMahon reneged on money that she feels was owed to her. It comes down to money. If the money is high enough, why wouldn't she settle? Like, that's what started this entire thing in the first place. And no other women have come, at least publicly, no other women have come forward to kind of join on to this or support her on this. It's like this has turned into a gigantic class action lawsuit. No, it hasn't. There was talk at the start that more women might come forward. I mean, if they have, they might have done so privately, but they haven't attached their names to it. That's a tough position to be in when you're fighting against a billionaire and a multi-billion-dollar company. I mean, this woman is not Erin Brockovich. I mean, she's not going to take down the evil empire here. The only thing that really matters to WWE are their sponsors. Even if more bad stuff comes out, I just don't see it having any appreciable impact on their business. Unless it's something so bad that sponsors threaten to pull out, they probably look at it as more of a nuisance than anything else. And if they have to crack open the checkbook, or Vince does, to make it all go away, then that's what they're going to do. Now, Brock was not on SmackDown this week. The only mentions of him came in highlights of what happened at the end of SummerSlam, and a brief mention by John Cena in his promo about how he never backs down from a fight. And if Brock Lesnar wants some, he can come get some. So after that big angle, that's all they gave us. They want to stretch this out. I don't even know if the target is Perth in October. You would think, okay, they're not going to do Paris at the end of the month. And then you go through all of September, and surely by October in Perth, they'll do the match. I'm not totally convinced of that. I could see Brock being seen as final opponent at this point in December. Like, would they actually drag this out that long? I mean, that would be disappointing because I'd like to see that spot go to Gunther. But Brock would certainly be the more marquee match. Beyond Cena, we don't even know for sure that Brock is back for anything more than that. If he is, then you start thinking of other potential opponents for him heading into WrestleMania season. And Gunther's name is at the top of that list, right? Because that was the match they were going to do last year before those plans got scuttled. By the way, Roman Reigns was asked by ESPN who his favorite all-time opponent is, and he named Brock Lesnar. He said everything changed for him once he stepped into the ring with Brock. And the funny thing about that is the best matches those two ever had together were their first and last ones. Like almost everything, not everything, almost everything in between was terrible. I have to say almost because they were part of that great four-way match at SummerSlam in 2017. That was great. But all the terrible shit in between, they bookended it with two excellent matches, WrestleMania 31 and then the Last Man Standing match at SummerSlam.